In life, we all take L's, and we either experience lessons or we truly suffer a loss when we gain nothing from the experience. And I want to talk about 3 lost boys. Just a little nickname that I came up for. 2 champions and a notable contender who all recently suffered a loss at the 140-pound division. And I believe 2 of them may have learned lessons, and 1 of them may have truly taken a loss. Welcome to BodyWork. Welcome back. It's Michael Rogers. Welcome to BodyWorkBoxing. I often put a lot of time into covering the 140-pound division. I feel like I have a firm grasp on all the major players, all the up-and-coming prospects, and can probably in a roundabout way tell you how this division is going to round out here in the next couple years, because I follow it. I look up all of the people in there, in the rankings, and watch all the political moves and who has belts and who has a name and who can fight and which style is this and all that. And here recently, 3 of the major players at 140 took L's. Devin Haney, who was the former undisputed champion at 135, who moved up, took on Regis Prograis at 140 for the WBC belt, had success there, ran into Ryan Garcia, took a major L. And we'll discuss whether that L is a lesson or a loss. His case, he got the loss removed from his record. But still, which type of L was it? You have Garyantuannerussell, who actually fought Alberto Puello, the former WBA champion, for his belt when he came back after losing it for, ironically, PED usage. Well, he also took an L. And we'll, in time, come to know whether or not that was a lesson or a loss. Lastly, we have Subrielmatias, El Orgullo de Maternillo, the pride of motherhood, the Puerto Rican champ who recently had won IBF Champion of the Year. People were saying that he was that guy. They also have Amanda Serrano, they got Yankiel Rivera, they got, they got Emmanuel Rodriguez, they got Xander Zayas. Puerto Rico was doing good, but he recently went home, fought a very gamey, tough guy who's on a spree over there at Matchroom, taking out Montana Love and Liam Paro, and he got outworked, and he took an L. And whether that's a loss or a lesson, we'll come to find out in time. But what I can say, the way it's shaping up, is I'll start with Subrielmatias. Subrielmatias was a straight up man, a grown man, a straight up adult, very, very mature. He basically said, listen, I lost. He didn't make any excuses, none. It was like pulling teeth to try to get this man to say what was going on. He basically just got outworked. He really didn't do anything to break the clinch. And maybe expended too much energy before the fight. I don't know. I'm not making an excuse for him. Subriel Matias didn't make an excuse for himself. All I'm pointing out is me as a fan, what I actually saw and why I thought Liam Paro won. And like Eddie Hearn said, it wasn't close. It just is what it is. I just go by what my eyes see, you know, and how I viewed the fight. I scored the fight. I watched the fight. Watched it twice. So his approach was, well, you know, when they kept asking what you gonna do, he's like, listen, I'm gonna go find my wife. We might make another child. You know, you gotta love a champion like that who you already know, because he's the only one that actually suffered adversity like this and was actually able to come back. And when he did avenge his only loss, he actually stopped the guy. His response to fighting Liam Paro again was like, well, if we fight again, I'm gonna knock him out. And a lot of people believe that, myself included. I believe that he has that kind of mindset. I believe that maybe everything just got to him the same way it got to Regis when he was at home. You know, only that was a city and Subriel had a country. And sometimes all of the energy, you know, prior to and the attention and, you know, your body, your mind might be fatigued. He looked like his gas tank. This is the first time we saw his gas tank sputter out. You know, he's known for a gas tank. Yes, he is normally getting hit. Yes, he tends to take on a lot of punishment in the first 3 rounds, and then he starts to go to work. He chips away at his opponent, and then ultimately his opponent starts to wither, and then he go ahead and ends the contest. He does not leave it in the judges' hands, and we all know, just like he had a concern with it going to the judges, even though no matter who was judging the fight, you know, biased or unbiased, it was kind of hard, I mean, in my opinion, to say that he won. You know, I still see a lot of people online arguing it, and I'm like, well, the boxer himself said what it was. We know you're a fan, and that's why I respect people like Subriel Matias, Errol Spence, people who take their losses. Even Regis handled his loss like a G. You know, I salute those guys, those good sports, you know, who actually gonna say what it is, not gonna make any excuses, gonna move forward. And I believe that in Subriel Matias' case, this was actually a lesson. It was a check on learning. It's not something that he hadn't experienced before. He got outboxed before. He got outpointed before. He found himself in a situation where he allowed it to go to the judges before, and they rendered a decision in which he lost. He was able to come back and stop that guy. So he has mettle. He can come back. He has the kind of mindset. Will he have to take the stairs like Regis did? Probably, because he's still a boogeyman. You know, even if you are to beat or win, you might find yourself, even though Liam Paro just got his ear drained, you know, for cauliflower ear, you know, you will find yourself with damages, especially with the way Subriel Matias punches. So I believe he's going to bounce back. He has to hop right back in the saddle in the next 90 to 120 days and keep the ball moving. And I think that this lesson will let him know that, listen, you can never be too comfortable. Never allow yourself. He said, maybe I came back over to Puerto Rico too early from being in Mexico, where I typically stay and train. You know, so I think there are many things that he can take away from this. How to beat the clinch. You know, how to communicate that, hey, I'm getting hit in the back of the head. Like, just, you know, when to turn it on. Not to wait so late. Maybe he does want to incorporate some of that head movement. I think that all those things are going to shape up in the form or fashion of a lesson for somebody like Subriel Matias. When it comes to somebody like Garyantuannerussell, I believe he too is going to take away from this and actually learn a lesson. You know, I don't think that this is going to be, I don't think that the loss is going to be harped on just as much, because he's a gladiator, has a gladiator mindset. He's taken a few losses in life here recently. One, like, you know, losing a father. I know how I was when I lost my mother. You know, it took years for me to overcome that. And for Mr. Gary Russell to try to galvanize the family, to also still pursue his boxing career while being in the corner, and then, you know, this big bright stage, and, you know, figuring out a way to actually translate what he wants Garyantuanne to do versus what Garyantuanne wants to do. I think that's a lesson. That's something they're going to have to work on. That's something they're going to have to build from. You know, but when I look at these numbers, I can't help but think that a lot of people are kind of like blowing things out of proportion. Yes, it was a close fight, but when it came down to total punches, it was 112 to 100 in Puello's favor. Yes, Garyantuanne had more activity by throwing 619 and landing 100 at 16.2%. That's not great accuracy. Puello only threw 425, but he landed more in 112, which was 26.4. That's better accuracy. They were kind of close because they both did some body work. Garyantuanne, 32 to the body. Alberto Puello, 36 to the body. That was close. Garyantuanne did win the war in jabs, 32 to 31. 7 to the body on his behalf, 5 to the body on behalf of Puello. Only Gary threw 309 punches and only landed 32 for 10.4%. And Puello threw 150 jabs and landed 31 of them for 20.7%. So that's the second category where Puello was more accurate. The last category being power punches. Power punches. Puello outlanded Garyantuanne 81 to 68. He outlanded him to the body 31 to 25. Gary threw 310 power punches at 21.9%, and Puello threw 275, landing 81 for 29.5%, almost 30%. You also have that body work that he did where he actually hit Garyantuanne and the ref actually gave him timeout as if he were hitting the jewels. And when you watch the replay, you can clearly see that he wasn't hit. You know, it wasn't a low blow. I also saw that in the championship rounds in 11 and 12, Garyantuanne basically just got outworked. You know, all around the board, Puello was more accurate, but Garyantuanne got outworked. That's pretty much what it came down to. In the case of the two boogeymen, they kind of got outworked, and in the case of Garyantuanne and Puello, the major key was accuracy. Puello was way more accurate, way more pristine. Defense was better. He was sharper. It wasn't a terrible loss. It was nothing for Garyantuanne to hold his head down about, nothing for him to be ashamed. And I know the accountability that Mr. Gary Russell Jr. has and how he aims for perfection and how he's so critical. Even when his brother performs excellent, he's still very critical. I think that that's going to pan out for him. As long as he, once again, jumps back in the ring in the next 90 to 120 days. I think that this is really going to be a lesson. Why? Because he has his name right back in the hat in which Alberto Puello was set to defend his belt against Sandor Martin, who Devin Haney should have fought because Sandor Martin stepped aside for him and Regis. Devin happened to run away with the belt. Now he's in recess, and he's saying he's taking a year off. So after Puello and Sandor Martin, we're hearing that Garyantuanne is next in the hat for a rematch, and everybody wants to see it again. It was a very close fight. So I think that the two boogeymen perhaps learned lessons, even though they took losses. If we don't learn from it, if we don't gain anything from the loss, the L is truly a loss and not a lesson. But in the case of Devin Haney, the one who actually had the L erased and had Ryan's W erased, given a no contest, suspension for a year on Ryan's behalf, forfeiture of money. You know, it's pretty tough for me, you know, when you think about it. Why? Because when you're at that level, you're in your prime, you figure something out, somebody tell you can't do what you've been doing all your life, and they take that amount of money, regardless of how much money you have. Some of the richest people are the most frugal. Maybe not the case with Ryan, but $1 million hurts anybody. But when I look at the case of Devin Haney, he has publicly admitted. He has put out reverberations. He has verbalized and communicated for a lot of people to echo the sentiments that he is not the same mentally, physically. I would even say spiritually. And I think that something's going on with his fans. They might be damaged esophagously, if I could make up a word. But I saw something where, you know, a large support group, shall I say, on YouTube for Devin Haney was basically going around trying to handpick a soft touch, literally calling it a soft touch, aka cherry pick for Devin Haney. And I said, this is the problem. And even though the L has been removed, this may still be a loss for Devin Haney. Why? Because he did not gain anything from the experience, and he's going to have a lot of yes people around him that are going to coerce him into actually blaming and pointing fingers at a lot of things that you cannot significantly say was the cause. Nobody takes accountability for the job that the referee had, in which it was really 5 knockdowns and not 3. Nobody can take away from what everybody seen when they watched that fight. And then to actually say that, to celebrate after getting it done, and then saying you have these mental health, I would think that anybody with mental health, especially if you get a check for being mental, you know, I don't think that mental health is something that you would want to play with. You know, I don't even think that it's something that you would even try to skim or scam with. It's something that's you know, when you see the results of somebody that's truly suffering from mental health and the things that they can go on and do or how they can deteriorate, I don't think that it's something you take lightly. For that young man to communicate that he is damaged in that way, it is a cry for help. And it's not going to help when you have people around you giving you excuses, trying to find something soft. Like, no, that's the problem. The problem was all along when he was building his career, nobody said, hey, Devin, man, hey, you're taller than this guy. You have a longer reach than this guy. You're more active than this guy. You're way older and younger than this guy. You know, your footwork is way better. It's like, maybe since you're down lower in weight, let's get the competition with some of these advantages, disadvantages. Let's mirror that. Let's get that flush. Let's make that even. But no. After this loss, they want to spoon feed him soft touches again. And I think that that's going to contribute to an even larger loss and a more devastating loss. Why? Because you don't learn from your previous mistakes. You march right on forward thinking that the Teflon that you're wearing is good and it's bulletproof. And it's not. You haven't done anything to fortify your Teflon, to shore up your defenses. You haven't even given yourself an opportunity to see how you will perform against that style, even if you go buy some sparring, calling another set of eyes and ears. And I think that the path that Devin Haney is going on is not so great. I've always been the one to say, hey, look, man, Devin, we all wish Devin success. We just thought that, you know, things that him and his father did were a little extra, you know, but nobody was really crying about the things that he was saying and doing, and his run-ins with the legendary hApp. You know, the things that he said about other fighters, from T.O. to Tank to, you know, the incident with Loma, and, you know, all the different things that he said about all these different people, to Ash Shakur, anybody that was on the opposing end. And I said that it was toxic back then and nobody checked it. Everybody said, okay. And now everybody's saying, I can't believe everybody's celebrating the cheater and they're just downplaying this guy and that guy and trying to pull this card. And I'm not buying any of it. I said none of that has anything to do with it. And if, you know, you sow seeds of discord, you sow seeds of disrespect, you say that you're going to go in the ring and kill a man, and then he daggone there do the same thing to you, in the end, I think that it's just karma. Whether you believe it or not, well, it can be put as in you reap what you sow. And I think that this is the harvest of a lot of things that he's done in his career, in his young career, even though he had a lot of success. But it was a lot of people coddling him and, you know, not really keeping it 10 times 10 with him. All the way 100, no more, no less. I think this is the time for him to show up his defense, for him to go back in that dark room like that film, allow it to develop, and when that picture gets clear, emerge. And don't go for the easiest challenge. Go right back in there. Face your fears right away. Get back in there with somebody that can fight. Somebody that can punch. Somebody that can move. Somebody that got a good left hook to see. If you can do it. Would it take an extensive amount of time and to sulk and to put all your emotions out on social media? Even though the loss has been erased, if he doesn't turn this into a lesson, it's really going to feel like a loss forever because he gained nothing from having that experience. Lessons and losses. You know, 140 has been recalibrated. I've been working on some things, reanalyzing 140, and I'm going to do some material on it and actually speak to it because 140, man, that's why I call it the row. And I say any given night, I've been saying this for like 2 years now, any given night, it can go down at 140. Anyways, I would love your thoughts, love your comments, love your feedback on this matter. What do you think? Who took a L? They all did. But who really learned? Who really got a lesson? And who really took a L? Think about it. Anyways, thanks for tuning in here at BodyWorkBoxing. But we don't take things for face value. We do that body work.